So here is the COROS Pace 4. And here is the COROS Pace 4. Man, COROS has been on a tear lately. The Nomad came out in August, the Apex 4 came out in October, and now in November, here comes the Pace 4. The Pace lineup is the watch that most of the COROS faithful have around their wrist, and the Pace 4 is in some ways true to the lineup, while in others is a complete departure from past models. So let's dive in and see how COROS will have you running at the speed of light. Get it? Because it's light. Yeah. So I've been using this watch for almost 2 weeks now, and aside from getting these test units sent my way and inviting me to a call about the watch, COROS has no say in what's going into this review and does not get to see the video or any of my thoughts prior to the video going live for everyone right now. So with that out of the way, let's get things going. Let's start right off with the price, because I feel like this is a win for COROS. The Pace 4 will retail in the US at $249. And since today's November 10th, the Pace 4 is available to order right now from COROS.com. Before you decide if you're going to get the latest and greatest from the Pace lineup, be sure to watch this video all the way through, as I have some thoughts on it. So let's start off with the unboxing. The unboxing experience is similar to the Apex release, where the straps and the watch are packaged separately. They're both a black and white colorway, available at launch with silicone bands. Now in the very near future, there will be nylon bands available, and further down the road you can anticipate some more colors for the watch itself. The first thing you notice is that the watch is, well, very light. Of course, the Pace lineup is designed to do two things: perform well and be so light you forget that you're wearing it. Now you'll see you also get your usual decals, manuals, charging adapter, and keyring to hold it as well. So let's start to get a little more detailed with the hardware here. The watches are 43mm in diameter, just under 12mm in height in the body, and 13.5mm in height if you count the sensor as well, and they're going to sport a 1.2-inch display. The internals are powered by the same Apollo Ambiq processor that powers the Pace Pro, Nomad, and Apex 4. Staying with the internals for a moment, you'll be getting 4GB of onboard storage, which of course means that you can load up your MP3s on the watch, but navigation will be through breadcrumb and not with any onboard maps. Both watches are going to have the COROS logo on the left side of the display, as you come to expect at this point. I think it's actually a little less noticeable on the white version, since there are other kind of white aspects to the design, versus the black version where that's the only white part. Now the black version is a very dark gray rather than a true black, and you can see some slightly darker accents along the side of the body, the buckle, and the push holder. While the white version has light gray accents in all of those places that are more apparent, and in my opinion make that version a little more interesting looking, although wearing a white watch daily, of course, isn't quite as easy. The Pace 4 is extremely light because both the body, the bezel, and the buttons are all 100% polymer, or, well, plastic. The buckle is also plastic as well. The display is made of mineral glass and has a 2.5D curve around the edges. That's COROS' nomenclature there. So while the overall display is flat, the slight rounding at the edges make it a smooth experience to kind of go from the bezel to the display while using the touch interface. And this type of display is a first for COROS. This is the first model that has it. On the side, you're going to see a small hole which houses one of the two microphones on the watch. You have dual mics here, the other being up at the 12 o'clock position. It seems that COROS really wants to go in on voice as part of their strategy going forward, and they've said as much. The straps have a really good stretch to them, the push button holder stays put very well, and you can see the two tones through the sizing holes as a nice bit of design detail. The wider holes and tapering from the 22mm pin also make the band as light as possible, and that makes it lighter than, say, the 22mm band of the Apex 4, which kind of stays straight and has smaller holes. And you can kind of tell the underlying message of the design language was, be light, be fast. Now to that end, the Pace 4 weighs in at just 40 grams with the silicone strap, and while I get 36 grams weighing with the COROS nylon strap that I have, COROS has claimed it's going to be 31 grams with the new nylon strap that will be available with the Pace 4 soon, and you can see a render of that right here. Now you are of course getting the digital dial, the back button, and the newer action button layout that is now familiar as it has been on each watch release this year for COROS. And of course the new arrival to the Pace lineup is the AMOLED display. While the Pace Pro released with an AMOLED last year, the standard Pace lineup has always featured an MIP display. COROS felt that the new AMOLED display is best suited for the type of athlete that the Pace is targeted towards. They say that is a more urban runner that may be spending more time indoors than out on a day-to-day basis. The display is plenty bright even in standard mode, and you could go up to high and max as well. And when you use this thing with the gesture backlight enabled, man, the battery life is just wild. So talking about battery life, the Pace 4 handily beats the Pace 3 in every metric and even beats the slightly older big brother, the Pace Pro, in some key areas as well. Now, to compare apples to apples and use always-on display during an activity, since the MIP display is always on, in high GPS mode, the Pace 4 is rated at 31 hours, and the Pace 3 is rated at 25 hours, Pace Pro rated at 28 hours. So Pace 4 comes out on top for both of those. Now, of course, in day-to-day use, having the Pace 4 in gesture mode is where it will beat out the Pace 3 in battery life, getting 19 days versus the 15 days of the Pace 3, and it will fall just shy of the Pace Pro in that regard, which is rated at 20 days battery life. In my own testing, I seem to be on pace, got it, for about 15 days using Race to Wake and doing roughly 1 hour of working out per day using always on display during that workout, and often using COROS armband heart rate monitor along with the Pod 2 sensor, so those kind of drain on the battery a little bit as well. Using the COROS Pace 4 is a very familiar experience if you've used COROS watches in the past. Scrolling with your digital dial or swiping vertically goes through daily data widgets, which can be entered for additional detail. You can enter the activity menu by pressing on the digital dial, and you can enter the toolbox carousel by long pressing on the back button. Now, I won't spend too much time on features since COROS runs a lot of the same software across their devices, but there is a new feature that is being debuted with the Pace 4, and that is voice-recorded training logs. So while geotagged voice pins came out with the Nomad, and are also available on the Pace 4, the addition of training logs includes a prompt to record a voice log after your activity completes. You simply scroll down to where you give your feedback after an activity is done, and after noting your RPE, you'll be prompted to record a voice note as well. This saves within the app and can be played back later. COROS states that while their sensors will record kind of like the raw data of your workout, all the X's and O's, that the subjective feeling around the workout wasn't being captured, and that can be an important part of understanding your training, as a workout may have had, say, horrible stats, but maybe you felt sick, or maybe you turned around because it started to pour. Maybe it was icy and you had to go slower. There's many things that can affect a workout that just aren't captured by sensors. The system also does a great job of transcribing these voice notes as well, so you don't have to play them out loud to reference the workout later on. Now, COROS did state that this voice inclusion is a focal point of their strategy going forward, and I think microphones is going to be a given on all their watches, and speakers, while not on their more entry-level watches, the Pace 4 does not have one, will be a part of their higher-end models going forward. I'll touch on the COROS Mobile App a bit as well in case this is your first COROS and you want to know what you're getting into with the software. The app definitely has a training first focus with metrics like training load, training status, running fitness, and recovery taking center stage on the app. Now on the wellness side of things, you'll get more of the expected metrics like heart rate, resting heart rate, stress tracking, sleep tracking, overnight HRV, and newly added to the app is the ability to track menstrual cycles as well. You can use the COROS app to easily make routes, and those can be sent to your watch for workouts. For the Pace 4, those will be followed as a breadcrumb trail since the watch does not include any onboard mapping. In your profile tab, you can see pre-made workouts and entire training plans that can be synced with your watch to follow along. Now, if you go into the watch area, you can find additional watch faces as well as customize various aspects of your watch like activity settings or apps and widgets are shown as you scroll through the menus on your watch. Now, if all of that is not enough, you can also access the COROS Training Lab in your browser as well and really dive deep into your training analytics on a much larger screen. And I think it's important to note in this day when many companies are offering higher paid tiers within their app, everything that COROS offers in the app and on Training Labs, as at the time of me making this video, is completely free to any COROS customer. So how does the Pace 4 stack up to other COROS models? Where does it fit in within the lineup? So if we're comparing the Pace 4 to its predecessor or other recent models, well, it seems to run laps around the Pace 3, which has been out for over 2 years now. There's a faster processor, longer battery life, new GPS chipset, all for just $20 more than the Pace 3 debuted at. While looking at the Pace Pro, you'd think that the Pace 4 would fall short quite frequently, but really the biggest difference is the inclusion of onboard mapping for the Pace Pro. The Pace Pro also has slightly larger display at 1.3 inches, but that does come with a larger diameter for the watch at 46 millimeters. And the Pace Pro also came out before the action button and microphones were an included feature, and the battery life is actually slightly worse in GPS activity, so there really are quite a few trade-offs to get those onboard maps. So you basically just have to decide what is more important to you. Now, in the interest of time, I'm just going to lump the Apex and Nomad together since they're decently similar in what separates them when compared to the Pace 4. Now, you of course have an MIP display versus the AMOLED of the Pace 4. You'll be getting 32 gigabytes of storage, which means onboard maps on both Nomad and Apex. You'll also be getting longer battery life, both in just day-to-day use as well as during GPS activities. In addition, you'll be getting hardened displays for the more rugged uses. You get sapphire on the Apex and hardened mineral glass on the Nomad. Now the trade-offs, well, you'll be paying more for those models for each of them. Apex starts at $429 and $479 depending on the size. The Nomad comes in at $349. Both watches are larger at 46 and 47 millimeters respectively, although if you get the small version of the Apex, that's at 42. They will also all be heavier, 64 grams, 61 grams for the full-size ones. That kind of puts it at twice as heavy as the Pace 4 if you throw a nylon band on there. Now, also unique to the Apex is the addition of a speaker, which allows Bluetooth phone calls and audio feedback during activities. And while I don't have time to do a full comparison against other brands in this video, the Pace 4 goes head-to-head with the Garmin Forerunner 165, the Suunto Run, and the Polar Pacer. If you wanted to throw in a similar type of watch from Amazefair, I'd lean towards the Active 2 due to the size and weight. Now we're about to see how the Suunto Run stacks up against the Pace 4, but if you want a full comparison video in the future, let me know in the comments and I can get to work on that. Well, okay then, let's jump in and see how the Pace 4 performs. Hey, real quick, actually, before we get those workouts pulled up, if you're enjoying this video and you like this sort of content, please throw a thumbs up and consider subscribing to support the channel. We are so close to 10,000 subscribers, and while that seems completely crazy to me, I really want to get there before the year is out. Thanks, and back to it. Okay, so jumping in this workout here, we're using the Pace 4 on the left wrist. We have the T-Rex 3 Pro on the right wrist, and I've got a Forerunner 970 in my hand with an HRM 600 connected on my chest. So we're going to start right off looking at heart rate here. If we look at things here, we're looking pretty good right off the bat. Everything is more or less agreeing here, right? We have that maroon color for the Garmin, the Pace is in purple, and the T-Rex is in blue. So you can see we're pretty much in agreement with everything here. Like the T-Rex kind of has a little extra jump here. The Pace kind of keeps sinking down once everything starts going up here. So there it's like lagging behind a little bit. Here it's also like lagging behind a little bit. Here it's kind of also lagging behind a bit. So what I'm seeing here is when there's changes, the Pace 4 is picking it up a little bit later than the others. So let's take a look at the intervals. This is where things are going to get a little dicey here. So remember our kind of maroon brown color, this is the HRM 600, right? So it's a chest-based ECG heart rate monitor. It's going to be the most accurate and also the most timely with those readings. Wrist-based optical, it's really not going to be fantastic on the wrist, but when we look at how these two different optical heart rate sensors are going, you can see the Pace does actually pick up the interval a bit after the T-Rex Pro here, and it does the same thing here, and it doesn't, it gets to about the same peak that the T-Rex 3 Pro does. And remember, because it's picking it up later, it's not going to get to the same peak because it's taken a while to go up. So once it's coming up, it kind of catches the downward trend there. Here it just kind of messes up, if I'm being honest, and honestly kind of here it does the same thing. When it's going up, it's still struggling, and then it just catches the downward. So the end result here, it does the same thing here. It's going up but slower, and then it catches the downwards, and then it's accurate again. So it struggles a bit on intervals. So While overall, I mean, if you're looking at average, they're all basically the same when you look at the overall average. But if you're trying to like time intervals based on heart rate on your wrist, which I would not recommend, the Pace 4 does struggle there. Looking at speed, it looks like the Amazfit sensor in the TRX 3 Pro seems to pick up on the intervals even faster than Garmin does. And this is all these are on their max setting, by the way, so all on dual frequency GPS mode, so this should be about as good as it gets. But you can see Amazfit picks it up first. The COROS Pace 4 picks it up second and also hits the proper peak, and Garmin actually misses out on all of these. So it looks like speed readings for actual like GPS accuracy with the speed, the Pace 4 wins out here over the Garmin, but Amazfit seems to catch all of those bursts in speed as I'm going down my streets like a blur of humanity. The Amazfit picks it up best. So here's our second workout here. We're looking at pretty much the same style of workout. It's more or less steady state, and then I hit some strides towards the end to try and test out, some interval accuracy. Now on this one, I have the Pace 4 on the left wrist as well. I have the Suunto run on the right wrist this time. And once again, I'm holding a Forerunner 970 and I'm using an HRM 600 to get those heart rate readings. So that's going to be kind of our control. And then we're going to be using the optical heart rate to kind of see how we're looking here. So on this one, Suunto is blue, Pace is purple, and Garmin is maroon again. And you can see right off the bat as we're kind of getting things going, like the Suunto run is kind of a little all over the place, right? You're seeing a lot more consistency between the ECG and the Pace 4. So again, like the Pace 4 seems to do very well when you're in just kind of a steady state. You can see there's a lot of agreement here. I don't know if the Suunto run just takes a while to warm up. So let's get into the intervals here. Let's see what we're looking at. And as a reminder, we're looking at the ECG on this kind of maroon brown color. And here, actually everything looks very good to start off. I'm gonna say these all look very good. Here's where you start to see some difference here, right? So on this third interval, you can see the ECG picking it up. The Suunto run hits it as well, but just a little later. And the COROS Pace 4, actually it hits it very accurately, but again, later. So it's still picking it up, but just a little bit later. This final interval is where things kind of fall apart for COROS here. The Suunto run actually performs admirably well here. It stays up a little high for too long, but you could see the increase in heart rate just goes too slow on the COROS Pace 4, and it doesn't pick up the actual reading until the way down. So it's very accurate once it gets down, it's accurate before it starts and coming off the last interval, but as it rises up rapidly from doing the interval, that's where it kind of loses things. All right, let's take a look at the GPS tracks. And again, this is where the activity was paused there, so excuse that. But if you're looking, I mean, everything's stacked on top of each other. We're using the max GPS setting on the Pace 4, which means the dual band, right? So we're using all systems dual band, and this looks like, I mean, everything is just spot on. Here we're just looking for congruity. There's no kind of like control or test here, and everything looks pretty good. I mean, if anything, the run wanders very slightly on some of these turns, and I was doing my best to take the turns like really fast. I'd like power around corners. It probably looked ridiculous, but you can see that there's a little bit of the Suunto run losing things here. The Pace 4 and the Garmin look like they're right on top of each other, so all pretty good there. Now I did also do some strength training that I recorded with it. I did some indoor cycling. I'd say indoor cycling, you're looking steady state, you're getting a very accurate, good reading off of that. It's very simple. You're staying still, you're not moving. That's a very easy reading, and the watch did perfectly fine with that. So for strength training, you just saw how the Pace 4 kind of struggled keeping up with intervals where there's a sudden spike in heart rate. And it was the exact same thing with the strength training, where I could finish a set and one watch would look like the heart rate had already gone up and the Pace 4 is just kind of lagging behind there. So it just does seem to be a weakness of the COROS heart rate monitor, and I think it's kind of known that on the wrist, they're not great with intervals. If you're looking to do heart rate based training with intervals, I would highly recommend getting the armband, getting a chest strap, getting whatever you're comfortable with, but relying on some other form of heart rate reading. So after just about 2 weeks of using and testing the Pace 4, what are my thoughts? I'll give you a list of things I don't really like, as well as things that I really do like. So let's start with the dislikes. The bezel isn't raised, so knowing me, this watch would need a screen protector or the doorways are really going to do it in. Now I understand this is a design choice to have that 2.5D display and smooth swiping, but it does come at the cost of some durability that a raised bezel would provide. Now if I'm buying a watch as a performance tool, I want it to be as rugged as the design would allow it to be. Another dislike is I notice a slight delay when using raise to wake. It's not all the time, but rather the first time checking the watch after an extended period of the display being off. And I actually went back to check the Pace Pro to be sure this wasn't something with just the Pace 4, and that watch does it as well. It'll take just a second and maybe even less to wake up, and then just another moment or so to adjust the brightness properly. Now day to day, if you're just checking the time or something, this is totally fine, but if you're using the gesture backlight while running, it's not great. You kind of have to stop your arm swing, and it's a little annoyance, and I'll say that if that's the price to pay for the insane battery life that the Pace 4 has, considering its size, weight, and display type, then I guess I'm okay with the trade-off. Next one, I guess I'd say the heart rate sensor performance was okay. It's not fantastic. For steady state work, it's spot on. You wouldn't expect amazing wrist-based optical performance during interval workouts, but at the same time, it did kind of underperform when compared to both the Amazfit sensor and the Suunto sensor. And I personally use the armband heart rate monitor and the Pod 2 when I'm doing speed work with the COROS, but getting a bit more accuracy out of the interval type workouts would have been good. Now, speaking of sensors, the Pace 4 has both a max mode in GPS, which reads all systems and uses a dual band connection, as well as a high mode, which reads all systems and uses a single connection. But there's no endurance mode in GPS. And the battery life in both the high and max GPS setting is great compared to its siblings, but the Apex 4 has that new endurance GPS mode, which kind of scrapes out some more hours of battery life and still holds decent accuracy. Now apparently this was a conscious decision by COROS, who said that the endurance mode worked very well in outdoor open areas, which is basically the intended environment for the Apex series, but that GPS mode struggled enough in more urban environments with taller buildings and other obstacles that they decided to just keep it off the watch as an option. Now I understand the desire to streamline the experience, and particularly if this is the watch that most newer runners will gravitate towards, but I almost always think it's a good idea to give consumers more choice. Now COROS kind of puts these little information blurbs around other actions in the watch, so it's like, why not just warn users the endurance mode may not give accurate readings in environments with tall buildings or obstacles or something along those lines. Okay, enough of being a negative Nancy. Let's hit on the likes for the Pace 4. There's a lot of those. I just picked a few here. So of course, the first and foremost is that the Pace 4 is so light it disappears on your wrist. It is easily very comfortable to wear all day long. During runs, it's never going to cause any fatigue in your arm, your wrist, anything. The watch runs extremely smoothly. It doesn't have any lag when going through the menus. I really feel like COROS is in a good place when it comes to the performance of their operating system using that Ambiq Apollo processor they have in all their latest models. The Pace 4 is also an absolute battery beast when compared to any other watch of this size and weight, but I mean really just in general as well. I mean, we're talking about a $249 40-gram watch that barely feels like it's there on your wrist, and it has longer battery life than the $1,200 Garmin Fenix 8 Pro. Now, is that a straight comparison, watch to watch? Of course not, so get out of the comment section and accusing me of rage bait, but I mean, you get the point. 19-day battery life and 41 hours in GPS activities is no joke. This watch can go the distance. And finally on my list of likes, I always have to mention it, the newly added display flashlight that all COROS models just got works amazingly well with an AMOLED display. Now for some reason the OG COROS fans hate this addition, as honestly it's pretty funny in my opinion. It's just a useful day-to-day function. If you don't like it, you can hide it in your menu. I mean, I swear the flashlight won't hurt you and you're not being forced to use it. Now, if I were to give a wish list specific to the Pace 4, I mean, I'd say having a raised bezel is really about it. I wouldn't expect things like storage enough for onboard maps or metal materials being used for the build or a sapphire lens. I mean, you're just not going to get those at this price point. So just raise up that plastic bezel a millimeter or two and call it a day, and this is just like a really good watch for its purpose. Now, my wish list for COROS software overall is a bit longer, but for the most recent models, I'd say we're missing quite a lot by not being able to program the action button to assorted shortcuts. As of right now, it literally just does nothing from the home screen. Now, before I close this out, I do want to make your decision a little bit harder because COROS is about to adjust the pricing on both the Pace 3 and Pace Pro. That's right, in just a few days from when this video goes live, the new pricing of the Pace 3 is going to be $199 and the Pace Pro is going to drop to $299. So you have this kind of very nicely spread out lineup with an array of functions at all different price points. So you got the Pace 3 at $199, the Pace 4 at $249, Pace Pro at $299, Nomad at $349, Apex 4 at $429, $479, and finally you got the older Vertex 2 at $599, Vertex 2S at $699. And that Pace 3 and Pace Pro are going to be available while they're available. They're not going to continue those in the long term, so grab them if you want them. Overall, I think the Pace 4 nails it when it comes to performance at an entry-level price. And I'm not going to call this an entry-level watch because, I mean, honestly, it's not. It might be simple to use, but, I mean, did you see what watch was on Kipchoge's wrist the other weekend at the New York Marathon? Yeah. This watch does keep things simple and focused like other COROS offerings while bringing a lightweight and performant package at a very competitive price point. So if you're a triathlete or other endurance multisport athlete, this watch will fit your needs. Now, of course, if you're a runner, anywhere from a beginner looking for a competent sports watch without breaking the bank that's simple to use, all the way up to the most storied marathoner ever, this watch can also fit your needs. So what do you think? Did COROS nail the Pace 4? Is this what you've been looking for in a sleek and lightweight sports watch? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And hey, if you made it to the end, I appreciate you more than you know. Thanks for hanging with me today. I'm Dave, and this is Dave Does Fitness. Have an awesome day and stay fit.